Good morning and welcome to the news on Aneke TV, your trusted source for the latest stories making headlines across Nigeria and around the world. Happy New Month. I'm Deborah Wakoba, glad to have you join us. Now to the headlines on domestic stories. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has a closed-door meeting with Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio. British-American tobacco Nigeria comes under fire after a factory worker reportedly loses his fingers in an industrial accident. Tense calm in Anambra State as the Independent National Electoral Commission faces its first major test under the new chairman. INEC ad hoc staff arrived early at Anambra polling centers as preparations heightened for the Anambra governorship election. Ekiti State Governor Biodun Oyebanji proceeds on his first annual leave since assuming office in 2022. A Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps officer pleads guilty to 1.7 million naira fraud charges in Kaduna. The National Youth Service Corps extends registration for Badge C Stream 1 by 48 hours following network disruptions. And on the foreign scene, Syria edges closer to full international recognition as Western nations move to lift long-standing sanctions. The European Union tightens visa rules for Russian citizens, citing growing security concerns across member states. Turkey unveils a new law aimed at reintegrating PKK fighters under a proposed national peace framework. The absence of the United States delegation at the United Nations Human Rights meeting sparks global curiosity. Washington expresses support for the European Union's plan to channel frozen Russian assets toward pressure in Moscow. Now the news in details. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has reaffirmed that the nation's security remains non-negotiable amid global reactions to a statement credited to former United States President Donald Trump threatening to send troops to Nigeria under the guise of defending persecuted Christians. The president, in a renewed message to Nigerians on national security, described the statement as unfortunate and misplaced, insisting that Nigeria is capable of protecting all citizens and residents regardless of faith or background. He urged the public to ignore what he termed external distractions and pledged continued investment in the armed forces to sustain the fight against terrorism and banditry. President Tinubu also met with the Sultan of Sokoto, Alhaji Mohammed Said Abubakar III, where he emphasized interfaith dialogue and mutual respect as pillars for national unity. Meanwhile, the African Union Commission dismissed Trump's comments as lacking basis in international law, while Russia announced it was closely monitoring developments in Nigeria. President Bola Tinubu last night received his Sierra Leonean counterpart, President Julius Maada Bio, at the Statement House in Abuja, where both leaders held a closed-door meeting that lasted over an hour. The visit, marked by full ceremonial honors, reflects the cordial diplomatic relations between both nations and the deepening of West African region cooperation. Sources at the State House disclosed that discussions centered on regional peace, counter-terrorism, and strengthening trade ties within the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. President Bayo, who succeeded Tinubu as ECOWAS chairman in July 2025, reportedly commended Nigeria's role in stabilizing democracy across sub-region. Diplomatic observers say the meeting highlights Nigeria's enduring influence in the region and signals continuity of leadership within ECOWAS. Both countries are expected to issue a joint communique after the talks, reaffirming their commitment to collaborative governance, peace enforcement, and shared prosperity within the West African bloc. British-American Tobacco Nigeria (BATN) has come under scrutiny from the Oyo State Ministry of Labour and Productivity following a factory incident that resulted in a worker, Mr. Akindele Ebenezer, losing his two fingers. Development has raised fresh concerns about industrial safety and welfare standards in the country's manufacturing sector. According to reports, the victim, a contract staff for more than 3 years, alleged that his supervisor ordered him to manually clear a blockage in a running Firebax machine, leading to the accident. He also claimed that the company delayed medical attention and has yet to provide compensation or formal acknowledgement of the incident. The Ministry of Labour has commenced an independent investigation into the matter, even as BAT's management reportedly warned employees not to speak to the media. Labour rights advocates have called on the government to ensure that multinational firms adhere strictly to occupational health and safety regulations to prevent further loss of life and injury in the workplace. Anambra State is among 8 Nigerian states conducting governorship elections off the general electoral timetable. Others include Bayelsa, Kogi, Imo, Osun, Ondo, Edo, and Ekiti states. The state joined the off-season schedule in 2003 after the Court of Appeal nullified the election of Dr. Chris Ngige and declared Mr. Peter Obi as the rightful winner. This year's contest features 16 candidates across major political parties. The chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, Aneke, Professor Joash Amupitan, has reaffirmed the Commission's preparedness for the exercise, noting that 24,000 ad hoc personnel have been deployed to 5,718 polling units across the state. Professor Amupitan emphasized that INEC remains committed to transparency with all sensitive materials secured and bimodal voter accreditation system device distributed. The incumbent governor, Professor Chukwuma Soludo of the All Progressive Grand Alliance (APGA), remains one of the leading contenders in the closely watched poll. Over 2,800,000 registered voters are expected to decide who governs Anambra State for the next 4 years as the governorship election gets underway today. The exercise marks the first major poll under the newly appointed INEC chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan, and is viewed as a crucial test of his leadership. According to the Commission, all polling units will open at 8:30 a.m. with over 98% of permanent voter cards collected across the 326 electoral wards. The major contenders include incumbent Professor Chukwuma Soludo of the All Progressives Grand Alliance, Nicholas Ukachukwu of the APC, Dr. George Moghalu of the Labour Party, Jude Ezenwafo of the PDP, and Paul Chukwuma of the YPP. Observers believe the credibility of the election will serve as a litmus test for Nigeria's electoral reforms. INEC has assured that its logistics and personnel are fully mobilized, with results expected to begin arriving at collation centers later in the evening. There is a heavy security presence across Anambra State as residents go to the polls to elect their governor. The exercise comes amid mixed feelings of anxiety and anticipation, particularly as it is the first major assignment for INEC chairman Professor Joash Amupitan, who assumed office barely 3 weeks ago. From the commercial city of Onitsha to industrial town of Nnewi and the state capital Awka, security operatives have been strategically stationed to ensure the safety of voters and election officials. Residents have expressed optimism that the poll will be free, fair, and devoid of violence that marred previous elections. The Nigerian Army, Police, and Department of State Service have deployed personnel across all local government areas, while election monitoring groups have urged citizens to exercise patience and adhere to electoral guidelines for a peaceful process. All attention is now on the 5,718 polling units across Anambra State as over 15 governorship candidates challenge the incumbent Professor Chukwuma Soludo ahead of the polls. The state government declared Friday a work-free day to enable civil servants to travel to their respective communities and participate in the exercise. The state head of service, Mrs. Chiodo Igwebe, stated that the decision was aimed at encouraging greater voter turnout and civic participation among the workforce. She directed all permanent secretaries and heads of ministries to ensure full compliance with the governor's directive. The government explained that participation of public servants in the electoral process will strengthen democracy and improve representation at all levels. The gesture has been widely commended by civil society organizations as a model for other states. The Anambra State Police Command has announced a total restriction of vehicular movement across the state during today's governorship election. The restriction, which began at midnight, will last until 6 p.m., covering all local and interstate routes. Police Public Relations Officer SP Tochukwu Ikenga said the directive was part of a coordinated security plan agreed upon by all security service commanders in the state. He explained that the measure was designed to prevent movement of unauthorized persons, curb vote buying, and ensure the safety of voters and electoral officials. SP Kenga urged residents to comply fully with the restriction and assured that the police would act professionally throughout the exercise. Only accredited officials, emergency workers, and journalists with valid identification are exempted from the order. Over 2,800,000 registered voters in Anambra State are heading to the polls today in what has been described as a defining moment for Nigerians' democracy. The governorship election is the first under the new Aneke chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan, and will serve as a measure of the commission's capacity to conduct credible polls. 6 major candidates are in the race, including incumbent Governor Chukwuma Soludo of APGA, Nicholas Ukachukwu of APC, George Muhalu of Labour Party, Jude Ezewafo of PDP, Paul Chukwuma of YPP, and Afam NM of SDP. Security agencies have deployed over 55,000 personnel, while local and international observers are monitoring compliance with the Electoral Act. The election is being conducted in 5,718 polling units across 21 local government areas. Aneke has confirmed that all polling units will open by 8:30 a.m., with accreditation and voting expected to close by 2:30 p.m. Results are anticipated to start coming in later tonight. Ad hoc officials of the Independent National Electoral Commission have arrived early at various polling centers, including the Community Primary School Amaobia in Oka South Local Government area, ahead of the commencement of voting. Reports from the area indicate that officials were seen setting up materials such as BVAS machines, ballot boxes, and voting cubicles. Residents also began arriving early to confirm their names on the voters' register in readiness for accreditation. Security personnel were positioned at the polling centers to maintain order and ensure the smooth conduct of the process. The atmosphere remains calm, with INEC officials assuring that voting would commence promptly at 8:30 a.m. as scheduled. A deputy superintendent of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Sani Yakubu, has pleaded guilty to diverting 1.7 million naira entrusted to him while acting in his official capacity. Yakubu, who was arraigned by the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission (ICPC) before Kaduna State High Court 12, admitted to 3 counts of criminal breach of trust and misappropriation of public funds. The officer, visibly emotional, broke down in tears as he confessed to the charges during court proceedings. The presiding judge fixed judgment and sentencing for November 12, 2025, signaling what could be a significant disciplinary action within the Corps. Observers say the development reinforces the judiciary's commitment to holding public officers accountable regardless of rank or status. Meanwhile, the ICPC has restated its resolve to ensure that no public servant escapes justice for acts of corruption. The Commission warned that anyone exploiting their office for personal gain would face the full weight of the law, emphasizing that corruption, no matter how small, weakens public trust in governance and erodes institutional integrity. The National Youth Service Corps has announced a 48-hour extension for the online registration of its 2025 Batch C mobilization, following widespread network disruption experienced by prospective Corps members. The new deadline has now been shifted to midnight, Tuesday, November 11, 2025, to allow more applicants to complete their registration process without technical hitches. According to NYSC spokesperson Caroline Imbu, the decision was taken to cushion the effect of server downtime and ensure fairness for all intending Corps members. She apologized for the inconvenience caused by the glitches and assured that the core technical team is working round the clock to stabilize the registration portal and enhance user experience. The extension comes as the NYSC prepares for the deployment of thousands of Corps members across the country, particularly in Anambra State, where they will play key roles in the governorship election. The agency reaffirmed that it has adequate manpower and logistics to support the electoral process, with backup personnel already being coordinated from nearby state offices to cover any shortfall. This news broadcast is coming to you live from Aneke TV. Remember, you can stay connected with us on our social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. Now a quick recap of the major stories making the news. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu holds a closed-door meeting with Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio. British-American tobacco Nigeria comes under fire after a factory worker reportedly loses his fingers in an industrial incident. Things come in Anambra State as the Independent National Electoral Commission faces its first major test under the new chairman. Aneke ad hoc staff arrived early at Amawbia polling centers as preparations heightened for the Anambra governorship election. Ekiti State Governor Biodun Oyebanji proceeds on his first annual leave since assuming office in 2022. A Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps officer pleaded guilty to 1.7 million naira fraud charges in Kaduna. The National Youth Service Corps extends registration for Batch C Stream 1 by 48 hours following network disruptions. And coming up shortly, on the foreign scene, Syria edges closer to full international recognition as Western nations move to lift long-standing sanctions. The European Union tightens visa rules for Russian citizens, citing growing security concerns across member states. Turkey unveils a new law aimed at reintegrating PKK fighters under a proposed national peace framework. The absence of the United States delegation at the United Nations Human Rights meeting sparks global curiosity. Washington expresses support for the European Union's plan to channel frozen Russian assets toward pressuring Moscow. We'll be right back.
The Arena with Chris Aniborgo is the platform where we meet to take critical analysis of burning and topical issues and matters in the society as to proper solutions on making the society better.
You came into office, you locked the door to everybody. Nobody can even access you. You don't even play the politics.
Month in, month out, year in, year out. So where is the money going to? Where's the resources?
Whenever the economy is in a shambles, you find the government embracing pro-people policy to assuage the harsh economic reality.
It was used to settle political interest, and Nigerians were paying dearly for it.
Tune in to the Arena with Chris Aniborgo every Monday through Thursday by 1 p.m. only on Aneke TV. Join us.
Welcome back. Now to foreign news. The United States and Britain have lifted sanctions of Syrian President Ahmad al-Sarraj following a similar decision by the United Nations Security Council. The European Union has confirmed plans to align with the move, marking a major shift in Western policy towards Syria since the ouster of Bashar al-Assad. Sanctions were also lifted on Syria's Interior Minister Anas Khattab. The U.S. State Department cited Syria's progress on chemical weapons elimination, counter-narcotics, and regional stability as reasons for the policy change. Both officials were previously under terrorism-linked sanctions, but the UN noted that their ties to extremist groups were no longer active. President Shara, who assumed office in January, is rebuilding international relations under the country's transitional government, signaling global recognition of Syria's return to the diplomatic fold. The European Union has announced tougher visa requirements for Russian citizens and deemed multiple entry privileges and mandating new applications for each trip. Brussels said the decision in response to what is described as acts of sabotage and the weaponization of migration. Exceptions will apply to dissidents, independent journalists, and human rights defenders. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas emphasized that travel to the EU is privilege, not a right, citing ongoing drone disruptions and security threats across Europe. The new rules are intended to safeguard public policy and security while reinforcing the EU's stance amid heightened geopolitical tensions with Moscow. Turkey is set to introduce legislation allowing members of the Kurdistan Workers' Party (PKK) and civilians to return from northern Iraq as part of a new peace process. The bill, expected before Parliament by the end of November, aims to end decades of insurgency that have claimed more than 40,000 lives. Officials say the measure will offer protection to returnees but stop short of granting full amnesty. Civilians and low-ranking fighters will return first, while senior commanders may face screening or trial. The process follows the PKK's recent disarmament and withdrawal under the supervision of jailed leaders Abdul Öcalan. The federal government, in business news, approval of 15% import duty on petrol has sparked widespread criticism from labor unions and economists. The new directive signed by President Bola Tinubu authorizes the FIRS and the Midstream and Downstream Petroleum Regulatory Authority to begin immediate enforcement. Analysts warn the levy could rise fuel prices to nearly 965 naira per litre, worsening inflation and living costs. Economics Marcel Okeke described the measure as a cost-push inflation trigger, urging the government to prioritize local refining instead of taxing imports. Now to sports. The Confederation of African Football will host the 2025 CAF Awards in Rabat, Morocco on Wednesday, November 19. The ceremony will celebrate outstanding achievements by players, coaches, and national teams across the continent. Nigeria is well represented, with Victor Osimhen shortlisted for Men's Player of the Year, Stanley Wabali for Goalkeeper of the Year, and Daniel Baneyi for Young Player of the Year. In the women's categories, Rasheedat Ajibade, Esther Okoronkwo, and Chiamaka Nnadozie have all received nominations. Nigerian striker Victor Boniface says his goal record for the Super Eagles does not define his dedication to the national team. Speaking in an interview, the Bayer Leverkusen forward said wearing Nigeria's color remains a lifelong dream despite mixed results on the pitch. Boniface, who recently joined Werder Bremen on loan, dismissed criticism of his form and social media activities, insisting he remains focused on improving his game. He also confirmed his contentment in Germany after missing a potential move to AC Milan. The 24-year-old maintains he is determined to make Nigerian fans proud as he continues his Bundesliga campaign. Now to entertainment news. Afrobeat sensation Burna Boy has achieved another milestone, becoming the first Nigerian artist to earn 5 career Grammy nominations in album categories. His latest project, No Sign of Weakness, is nominated for Best Global Music Album at the 2026 Grammy Awards. He also received a nod for Best African Music Performance for his hit single Love, alongside fellow Nigerian stars Davido, Irish Star, Wizkid, and Omale. The nominating bring his career total to 13, including his 2021 Grammy win for Twice as Tall. And finally, before we go, here's a recap of our top stories. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has held a closed-door meeting with Sierra Leone's President Julius Maada Bio. British America Tobacco Nigeria has come under fire after a factory worker reportedly loses his finger in an industrial accident. Tense calm in Anambra State as the Independent National Electoral Commission faced its major test under the new chairman. And from the foreign scene, we told you that Syria has edged closer to full international recognition as Western nations move to lift long-standing sanctions. That's the Aneke TV News at 9 a.m. For more news and live updates, follow us across all social media platforms: Facebook, X, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, all at Aneke TV. On behalf of the producer Chidima Sogwa and the entire news team, I'm Deborah Wakaba, thanking you for watching.
Abia State, nicknamed God's Own State, was created on August 27, 1991, from the old Imo State by the military administration of General Ibrahim Babangida. Its name, Abia, is an acronym for Aba, Bende, Isikwato, and Afiuku Umahia, the four major areas that initially comprised the state. The state lies in Nigeria's southeast and is inhabited predominantly by the Igbo ethnic group, who are known for their enterprise, hospitality, and vibrant cultural practices. Before state creation, the region was part of the Eastern region and played notable roles in Nigeria's pre- and post-independence history. One landmark event was Aba Women's Riot of 1929, a mass protest by women against colonial taxation, which began in the Aba area and influenced policy changes across Nigeria. Abia State is naturally endowed with fertile soil for agriculture and solid mineral resources such as limestone, kaolin, and laterite. Oil and gas are also found in some parts of the state, making it one of Nigeria's oil-producing areas. Economically, Aba is a powerhouse of trade and manufacturing, especially in textiles, leather works, and metal fabrication, earning it the nickname Japan of Africa. Abia State's cuisine reflects Igbo culinary traditions with popular dishes including achi and oha soup. It is a thickened soup made from oha leaves and achi seeds. Okazi soup. It is rich with okazi leaves and cocoyam paste. Abacha, African salad, made from cassava flakes, palm oil, and local spices. Ofe nsala, white soup, a light soup often cooked with fresh fish, beef or chicken. Palm wine, a traditional beverage tapped fresh from raffia or oil palm trees. Abia State has different notable attractions, and they include National War Museum Umuahia, housing relics and weapons from the Nigerian Civil War. Akwete Weaving Village, famous for its centuries-old traditional cloth weaving. Azumiri Blue River. This is known for its clear blue waters and scenic beauty. Amakama Wooden Cave, a natural hollow in a giant tree with cultural significance. Long Juju of Arochukwu, an ancient shrine and historic slave trade route site. Abia State celebrates various cultural festivals such as New Yam Festival, Iriji, marking the start of the harvest season. Ekpe Festival, a masquerade and dance tradition in Arochukwu and other areas. Akwete Festival, celebrating the art and heritage of Akwete weaving. Aba Carnival, this carnival showcases dance, music, and colorful parades. Abia State is known for its entrepreneurship and Aba-made goods like shoes, bags, clothes, and mechanical fabrications. It is also known for agriculture, especially cassava, yam, oil palm, and cocoa, cultural craftsmanship like Akwete cloth, pottery, and wood carving, and their historic significance, especially in women's rights activism. 1929 Aba Women's Riot.
1 Timothy 6 verse 10 reminds us, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. By craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows." The so-called instant wealth mentality, often described as the get-rich-quick syndrome, refers to the rapacious desire to acquire financial wealth through questionable or unauthorized means solely to satisfy interests or selfish ambitions. In former days, Nigerians prided themselves on the dignity of labor, hard work, humility, endurance, respect for elders, and perseverance, where values were deeply taught by parents and guardians. These virtues propelled many young people into apprenticeship, skill acquisition, and education with the hope of building a solid future. But today, the narrative is changing. With the advent of technology and the erosion of values, many youths have abandoned diligence and now chase wealth by any means. Over time, some parents even began forcing their daughters into marriages with wealthy men, as there's an Igbo adage that says, "Ogobuchi onye," meaning in-laws determine destiny, regardless of love or compatibility. Likewise, some parents urge their sons to make money like their mates without caring about the source. This cultural shift fractured society. Instead of rising through hard work, many young people now want to rise like the Iroko tree, tall, proud, but with little or no traces of foundational hard work. Some have indulged into money rituals, popularly known as ukite, cybercrime, Popularly known, the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC, Enugu State Command, has inaugurated the Civil Defense Community Partnership Network, CDCPN, to strengthen grassroots security collaboration and promote sustainable peace across the state. The event, which held at the NSCDC Mediation Hall in Enugu, had the theme, Charting a Pathway for Enhanced Security Through Community Engagement. It is an initiative of the State Commandant, Dr. Elijah Etimwili, aimed at enhancing synergy between the Corps, sister agencies, and community stakeholders. In his address, the network coordinator and head of the CDCPN unit, ACC Odo Robinson, said the program was designed to build stronger partnerships that would redefine security management in the state through sustainable community involvement and information sharing.
Defense Community Partnership Network in Enugu State Command is to enhance security measures within and outside the local communities in Enugu State. But he cannot do it alone. This is his objective. And we can only achieve this with your help. How? By giving us information at the right time. Because information is the life wire of an organization. Without information, we cannot achieve anything.
Also speaking, ASC1 Pamela Chukwu commended the leadership of Commandant Willie, describing his first year in office as impactful with visible achievements in peace building, community engagement, and field supervision.
Organizing consistent stakeholders engagement with quarry operators, borough pits, miners, and truck drivers. These meetings promoted compliance with the mining regulations and curb illegal activities and encourage environmental safety and accountability within the sector.
Deputy Commandant DCC AHO Rogo noted that Enugu State had faced serious security challenges before the inception of Governor Peter Mba's administration. He, however, lauded the joint efforts of the state government and the NSCDC in restoring relative peace, stressing that the new network would help tackle emerging threats through timely intelligence from communities.
I can remember that as at early 2022, we hardly sleep with our two eyes closed, irrespective of wherever you are within Enugu State and then the Eastern region at large.
In his keynote address, Commandant Elijah Etimwili said the CDCPN represents a proactive step in deepening community participation in security management. He explained that modern security threats require collaborative solutions, adding that the initiative seeks to bridge the gap between the Corps and the people for a safer society.
The complexity of modern threats, ranging from vandalism of critical national assets and infrastructure, to terrorism, to banditry, to cybercrime, to communal conflicts, demands a holistic approach that integrates community participation into the security architecture. It is against this backdrop that the Civil Defense Community Partnership Network, CDCPN, emerges as a strategic framework of the Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps.
During the interactive session, traditional rulers and other participants applauded the initiative. His Royal Majesty Dr. Uchenna Aneke proposed the creation of a communicate portal to improve coordination among members, while His Royal Majesty Professor Vitalis Ona, the Ezoshimiri I of Ukwoto Edobara Ancient Kingdom, advised the command to establish a liaison office within the smart school premises. Architect Chima Ije also called attention to reoccurring headers farmers clashes requiring urgent attention. The highlight of the occasion was the formal inauguration and oath-taking of new members of the Civil Defense Community Partnership Network. Chidimi Kemede, Aneke TV. 1 Timothy 6 verse 10 reminds us, for the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. By craving it, some have wandered away from the faith and pierced themselves with many sorrows. The so-called instant wealth mentality, often described as the get-rich-quick syndrome, refers to the rapacious desire to acquire financial wealth through questionable or unauthorized means solely to satisfy interests or selfish ambitions. In former days, Nigerians prided themselves on the dignity of labor, hard work, humility, endurance, respect for elders, and perseverance, where values were deeply taught by parents and guardians. These virtues propelled many young people into apprenticeship, skill acquisition, and education with the hope of building a solid future. But today, the narrative is changing. With the advent of technology and the erosion of values, many youths have abandoned diligence and now chase wealth by any means. Over time, some parents even began forcing their daughters into marriages with wealthy men, as there's an Igbo adage that says, "Ogobuchi onye," meaning in-laws determine destiny, regardless of love or compatibility. Likewise, some parents urge their sons to make money like their mates without caring about the source. This cultural shift fractured society. Instead of rising through hard work, many young people now want to rise like the Iroko tree, tall, proud, but with little or no traces of foundational hard work. Some have indulged into money rituals, popularly known as okite, cybercrime, popularly known as Yahoo, prostitution, vandalism, kidnapping, drug trafficking, human trafficking, and theft. The get-rich-quick mentality is not a Nigerian problem. It is a global issue. It spreads like wildfire. In pharmaceuticals, some produce fake or adulterated drugs, repackage expired medicines, or sell counterfeit drinks and foods. Others flood the market with harmful skincare products or inferior tires that burst on highways, claiming innocent lives, all in the name of profit. In public service, corruption thrives. Officials embezzle humongous funds, collect bribes, and divert resources meant for development. Some engineers cut corners by using substandard materials to build roads that collapse within months. Certain nurses exchange babies for money, while baby factories exploit young pregnant girls. Some native doctors encourage blood money rituals, while prosperity-preaching pastors promise instant success without labor, even blessing fraudsters and urging them to pay tithes. But is this truly the right way to make money? Must everyone be rich and influential at all costs? Some Enugu residents who spoke with Aneke TV lamented the moral collapse.
In recent time, we have seen a deviation from hard work and the entrenchment of laziness among the youths and the upcoming ones, because you now see a situation where people don't no longer take patience in hard work, like not you want to reap when we did not sow, or you want to sow today and you know that in the process of planting, you have to sow, you have to wait. There's a gestation period, and then before you talk of harvesting. But these days, the young ones want to sow today and then reap the next day. That is get rich quick thing.
They want to belong because when they see their mates, and when they see their mates driving big cars, they want to belong. Some parents are also the cause, because the way they talk to their children, they compare their children to the children of their neighbors or their co-wives. That's one of the things to me.
Some of the parents contribute to this get-rich-quick syndrome, because when the parents begin to compare the child with other people, you are telling your child, have you not seen Mr. A, how he's doing well, buying houses for the parents, doing this and doing that? That child will feel bad, or we want to go to any length in impressing you to show that, okay, you know, to make you proud. That is what some of them, you get them, they say, I want to make my parents proud, because the parents refuse to be proud of them because they have not met up with the other people they are comparing them with. So you don't compare your child with anybody.
They noted that society has grown cold, not just cold, but frozen. The poor are despised, mocked, and branded as cursed, while the wealthy are exalted regardless of how they earned their wealth. This disturbing trend calls for sober reflection. It is time to pause, reconsider, and retrace our steps for the sake of ourselves, our families, and our nation.